30 years ago, a group of 4 mostly fictional athletic Jamaicans were busy crashing little cars into things. But those 4 athletic Jamaicans got a chance to race car things in similar fashion at the Olympics. Now, just 30 years later, a sort of perfect bookend to the story of the Jamaican bobsled team. 4 probably not so athletic, more than likely white kids will fight for a chance to represent their country, just like those Jamaicans, because Rocket League is finally coming to the Olympics. That's right, it's happening. Why Rocket League for the Olympics? Why not any other esport? How did Rocket League come from like the first RLCS where maybe 1,000 or so people attended? I could have that number wrong, but it doesn't look like much more than that, to where we are now. And even to where this past RLCS was, where there was like 10,000 people filling up the Prudential Center in New Jersey. And also, what does Rocket League becoming an esport mean for the game and even for you potentially? That's right, you could actually attempt to qualify for this, potentially. Maybe we'll see another Cinderella story like we did with the Peeps at DreamHack Montreal, where a team virtually comes out of nowhere and beats the best teams in the world. The truth is, a lot of these RLCS teams have had a sort of cushion with the requalification system of RLCS. Just because you can beat the other North American RLCS teams multiple seasons in a row doesn't mean that some RLRS team or even bubble team couldn't have something in their game that you're not ready for. Again, that's what we saw with the Peeps. And interestingly enough, the Peeps are one of the only all-American teams, according to Gibbs, along with Rogue and Birds and the Bees. Most of these teams have like 2 from the US and 1 from Canada. So the first thing that I want to point out, and many of you may not remember this, or maybe you just weren't around, or maybe you just weren't paying attention, but there actually was a sort of Rocket League Olympics back in 2017, when the League of Rockets hosted the first ever Rocket League World Cup. I don't remember exactly how the teams were selected back then. I know that it wasn't some sort of open qualifier. Regardless, in that tournament/production, we got to get a feel for what the international meta for Rocket League was at that time. It was actually quite similar to the Football World Cup, or soccer for you posh Americans. For example, Finland may be a small country and one of their players wasn't even a primarily competitive player, that is Jazer, but they made it all the way to the finals, beating what would be the powerhouse teams like France and the Netherlands. We got to see teams form and players come together and just sort of a new chemistry that's otherwise unknown. What would it be like to have a team made up of Squishy, Garrett G, and Kronovi, for example? It was honestly one of my favorite events in Rocket League history, plus the trailer made by League of Rockets was arguably the best esports trailer I've ever seen. Like, it's unbelievable. Also, there were opportunities for players from places like Brazil who would otherwise never get to play against the major teams and the big players of RLCS. Rocket League being one of the first esports to be directly tied to the Olympics is massive, not just for esports, but for Rocket League as a game and for us as a community. The League of Rockets World Cup was really ahead of its time. Since then, we've seen the massive success of obviously the Fortnite World Cup, even with all of its memes.
Guys, did you like that finish here today? Zan clutching up. Guys!
This sort of international gaming event makes it so that players who would never be able to compete because of just server distance, it makes them able to actually go head to head and test their skills against the absolute best in the world. I think personally there's going to be some crazy stories coming out of this one, just like with the Fortnite World Cup. So this announcement coming from the Esports Observer gives 2 games, Rocket League and Street Fighter V, a chance to be competing at the 2020 Oh my god, I just almost said Neo-Tokyo Olympics. The 2020 Tokyo Olympics. So why not Fortnite or Overwatch, or at this point, I don't know, Minecraft or something? They explained that these 2 games, Rocket League included, are the simplest games for non-players to get excited about. And they couldn't be more right. I've seen this countless times with RLCS. Kids will be there and they'll bring like their mom or their dad or their whole family. And by day 3 after I see them, these siblings and parents are just as excited about the competition, if not even more excited about getting to watch these teams play, and they don't even play the games. My dad, for example, has watched multiple RLCS finals, and as you may know, my dad is not much of a Rocket League player.
Dang, you were getting spanked, right?
How am I supposed to get back there, though?
He even watched season 1 with me way back in the day when the production quality was nothing compared to now. I've always said that I believe Rocket League should have some sort of like World Cup ongoing, and that it should become sort of the football, again soccer for you Americans, of international esports, because it's more than just Rocket League being really watchable and easy to just like pick up. I mean, that really is true though. Like the other day, Overwatch, competitive Overwatch, I don't even know what league or what it was, but it was on just like some regular channel when me and my dad were watching golf, and we watched it for a little bit, and what is if you don't play that game, you don't know what's going on. But aside from that, Rocket League is one of the first major esports to not have any elements of violence in it, at least in the gameplay.
You can take all the lucky shots you want, and until you send me your address, you ain't nothing but a...
I know there's a big debate continuing on about violence in video games and whether or not it affects gamers or has any effect on our culture. I'm not even going to really address that, because even if I say certain things that you guys know I'm talking about, but this video could get like demonetized. But I'll put some links to some great studies and also an interview on Fox about this topic. I don't think that playing these games necessarily causes you to do certain things, but regardless, even if we don't believe that violence in video games has this kind of long-term effect on people, I still don't really want my kids to watch at least certain video games or movies because of the violence that's in it. And the thing sports, like traditional sports, has always had, at least mostly, over and above esports, is that they're family friendly. Again, not always. People get injured. Some of these sports are somewhat violent. I mean, it's true I would rather my kid actually play PUBG than football. Better for their brain, no doubt. But it's tough to pitch many of these esports to, say, like a high school board if they're trying to decide like what esport to add. But it's really not tough to pitch them Rocket League. I could see most schools getting on board with that esport because it just feels like a regular sport. This is part of the reason why I believe Rocket League really deserves to be that sort of international primary esport. It's so much like soccer. It's easy to watch, even if you don't play it. It's clean, it's competitive, it's always down to the wire, and it's always exciting. So I have big hopes for this. Now, I don't know what all of this will entail. I do believe there will actually be medals, like real medals, but will it be streaming at the same time as the other sports? Will it be on the same channels? Will it be in the same place? Like, are we going to be watching the floor routine and then it just switches to Rocket League? Who knows? I would say probably not. Regardless, there will be an open qualifier leading up to a tournament, and that tournament will be like right before the Olympics, and that tournament will be a $250,000 prize pool, which is gigantic. Like, this is so huge to be adding just this tournament, and then after that, a chance to compete in 2020 at Tokyo, not Neo Tokyo. So what's the main motivation for Psyonix and Epic Games to have Rocket League at the Olympics? According to Jeremy Dunham, one of the long-standing Psyonix guys, he says that having national teams could lead to new potential competitive formats outside of just RLCS. So they're obviously looking to do more than just RLCS. I don't think they're going to get rid of RLCS anytime soon, but they're kind of recognizing that we need more. But even more, it's about getting Rocket League to a broader audience, a more international audience. So like CSGO, it feels like Psyonix is wanting Rocket League to have lots of different leagues and really more opportunities for the best international players to compete. So yes, RLCS is the main deal, but even with South America and OCE added, there's still entire regions that really don't have much in terms of competition. This is the first opportunity to let those players compete against the best in the world. And Tokyo is perfect too, because this could mean that Rocket League is able to potentially reach the Asian market in a new way. And with Rocket League in whatever stage it is of being free to play in China, this is massive for Psyonix. So who would you have winning the Rocket League Olympics, and what would be your dream team for each country? Is France just going to be K-Dop, Fairy Peak, and Chaussette? Honestly, it probably should be. I mean, that's kind of a dream team. Imagine the comms. I would try to say something French right now, but I feel like that's a bad idea. So what countries will be competing also? Honestly, I'm serious about moving somewhere so I can compete. All right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, hope you guys are doing well, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.